Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a good summery weekend, and if you got any questions or concerns, shoot me in the chat here or the question box and be happy to address them. Otherwise, we'll get on with our topic. I think we'll be going quite to the end here. We'll see, but just wanted to kind of review, for those of you that meet people in people's homes, and again, there's advantages to meeting people in the homes, and there's advantages to meeting people in your office. What do you think the advantages would be to meeting people in their homes? And I met people both in their homes and in the office. So what do you think the advantages of meeting people in their homes? Ah, you got it, Tom. Yep, everybody's got it, Matt, everybody. They're more comfortable. You're on their ground. They're in their territory. So that's the good thing about meeting people in their home. Also, all their documents are there. That's another good thing. What do you think the good thing about meeting people in the office is? The only reason I like to meet people in the office is because I can see more people. I can see. That's right, Casey. I can see more people. That's why I like to meet people in the office. So I've got guys that make $350,000 to $400,000 a year meeting people in their homes. And the reason they're limited to that is not much higher than that is because they can only see about 3 people a day when they're meeting people in their homes. If you're meeting people in the office, I used to see 6 people a day in the office with no problem. So you can just see more people in their office. But if you're meeting people in the home, this portable scanner is an awesome tool to have. And when Missy and Tricia first showed this to me a couple of years ago, I was like, those things don't work worth crap. But they put one on my hands. This thing works awesome. So it's a great thing to have with you if you're going to people's homes because you can scan their documents right then and there. And it's only about, oops, went backwards there. It's only about, I think they've got it down to like $50 at Target.com. So it's a very, very inexpensive and a great way to scan people's documents. It's very, very quick. Okay. So the topic today is objections. Objections. What do we do with objections? Well, before we talk about that, let's reflect on how objections fit into the whole 5Q overview. So we have 4 cornerstones of the 5Q system. First one is mutual respect. I will respect the client, but guess what? Is it only me respecting the client, or do I expect them to respect me? That's yeah, both ways. That's right, Paul. Both ways. So how do we make sure the client respects us? Well, there's certain. I've had a couple of guys in the last week talk about this, where if the client's getting grumpy at a one-on-one meeting, or the crowd's getting grumpy or not being cooperative at an event. I mean, how do we deal with that? What do we do? Do we just try, and here's how most guys deal with it. They try to get away from that spot as quickly as possible. So if they're in a one-on-one meeting with a client and the client's getting a little grumpy, a little irritated, a little on edge, the advisor tries to get away from it, get away from the topic, get away from that situation as quickly as possible. Does that work? No, it doesn't, because you know what? Then you start to build it's a house of cards, and everything that you build at that point is going to get worse and worse and worse. So you got to address it right then. So here's how so do I say, you need to respect me? Is that what I say? No. Here's what I do. If they're getting grumpy, if they're getting irritated with me, I'm going to stop the meeting. I'm not going to try to move ahead as quickly as possible, get away from that spot. I'm going to stop the meeting right then and there. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, folks. I mean, obviously I said something to upset you, whatever it was, that was not the intention. I certainly wouldn't say anything on purpose to upset you. I apologize, whatever it is. I did not mean to say it, so I just want you to know that was not my intention whatsoever, so I apologize. And then I just shut up and look at them. I just shut up and look at them. And what do they say? Because they've been being jerks. They've been being irritated. They've been being not answering questions or getting aggressive or whatever. And when I just do that to them, what do they do? And then I apologize and say it's my fault and I don't know what I said, but whatever I said, it wasn't my intention. And then I just shut up and look at them. Guess what they do? Every single time. They'll feel the need to explain why they are that way. They say, oh, no, well, I see your point. It's just that I don't, I've been in a lot of these meetings and people are trying to shove things down my throat or they explain to me why they're irritated, and then I just get on their side about why ever they're irritated, and then guess how they are for the rest of the meeting? Because did I really need to apologize? Am I being the jerk or are they being the jerk? They're being the jerk. But I apologize saying, hey, it's my fault that you're a jerk. And when you do that, guess what happens? They just calm down and they're pussycats for the rest of the meeting. Does that make sense? Yeah, they just calm down. So the second thing is don't tell, sell, preach, or teach. We're going to talk about a little bit about this today. And then get invited in. What do I mean by that? Do we ever tell people, hey, do you want me to help you? Hey, I can fix this for you. Hey, you should take a look at my things. Hey, you should work with me. Do we ever do any of that? No. They always say, where do you see me fitting in? What would you like me to do? Would you want to see what my clients do? See, it's all. We never push. Remember, I've always said this. No point worth making should be made by us. So if they want to work with us, I shouldn't be asking them to work with us. They should be asking to work with us. And the last one is overcome the objection before they bring it up. Overcome the objection before they bring that up. So we're going to talk about objections today. But first, the best way to what is the best way to overcome an objection, guys? Hint. Your answer is right on the screen. What's the best way to overcome objection? Yeah, make sure it never comes up. And here's the great thing about having a system. So we've been doing and having the same one-on-one script. Now, marketing-wise, we're in our 8th generation of events. But one-on-one, this is the exact same meeting. I made $1 million in 1 year back in 1999. So this, and guys have made $1 million a year basically every couple of years since then. So this is the exact same meeting, same script, same everything that we've been using for years. Now the nice thing about that is because we're using the same script and it's been working well for 15, 16, 17 years is that we know exactly where clients are likely to make objections. So guess what we do? We put the necessary information into the script 2, 3, 4 minutes before the objection is likely to occur to prevent that objection from coming up. So when you follow the scripts, guess what you won't find? Somebody said that they're losing the audio. Is everybody losing the audio, or is it just 1 or 2 people?
I think it's just 1 or 2 people.
Everybody else is saying it's fine. So I'm not sure, Barry and Fern, what's going on, but everybody else is okay. So it's on your end, unfortunately. So do you get that, guys, where the best way to overcome objection is learn the scripts and you won't have objections. Learn the scripts for the disclosure meeting, learn the scripts for the implementation meeting, and when you do that, you won't get objections. Now think about it. Let's see if somebody can figure this out. Why won't you get objections? There's lots of answers to this, but why won't you get objections if you follow the 5Q system? Yeah, you pre-cover them, absolutely. Because they're already addressed with them a few minutes before, absolutely. Yep, so you're all getting that answer. The other answer I'm looking for is this. Is if they're doing all the explaining to me, who would they be objecting to? If I'm asking questions, if not a single statement comes out of my mouth, but simply questions, who would they be objecting to? Themselves. So if you do this right, it's impossible to come up with for them to have objections unless they're going to start arguing with themselves, and are they going to do that? No. So that's the main thing I want to say. But today we're going to talk about how to get rid of objections naturally. First thing is overcome the objection before they bring it up. If they say it, it's true. They're not going to argue with themselves. So what's the only way to overcome objection? Only way to overcome objection is if the client admits that they're wrong. If the client admits they're wrong, and does anybody like to admit that they're wrong? No. Nobody likes to admit that they're wrong. So we'll get into a little bit here about, you have to get on their side when they give an objection and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to reiterate the fact that if you learn the scripts, these won't happen. And we talked a little bit on Friday about the power of attorney and why we actually have created the script the way that we did. Virtually the first 80% of the script is all about what? The first 80% of the script is about what? The fact that if you don't have an advisor doesn't look at a power of attorney, he's a lousy advisor. No. What is the first 80% of the script about? For those of you that are on Friday call, no, I'm sorry. What is the first 80% of the power of attorney script about? For those of you that are on Friday's call, what is it about? Dudes, I'm gonna have to redo that whole Friday call. Nobody's got the right answer. Lots of good answers here, but nobody has the right answer. Guys, the first part of the power of attorney, 80% of it is so that they will not give me the objections that normally come up with the power of attorney. The whole first part of the power of attorney is, and the whole first part of titling, and the whole first part of beneficiaries is about making them tell us that the objections that normally come up are not problems. Do you get that? The first 80% of those scripts are about overcoming the objections that would normally come up when we didn't do those parts of the script. The stories about the power of attorney, the stories about the beneficiaries. The reason we have those in there is because if we didn't have those in there, objections would come up at the end. And so those scripts were created so that those objections that we would the 3, 4, or 5 objections we'd normally have come up with the power of attorney, the 3, 4, or 5 objections we normally have come up with the titling, the 3, 4, or 5 objections we normally have come up with the beneficiaries, we put the scripts together so those objections could not come up. And that's why when you're learning the scripts, you're like, Mike, geez, why with the power, with the beneficiaries do you have me say 15 times, or have the client say 15 times that they have it set up equally with their children? Isn't once enough? Why do you have it say it 15 times? Why are you doing this? What's the story? What's this bus story about with the power of attorney? What's this? All of those things are there so that you don't have to overcome an objection at the end. Because how hard is it to overcome an objection, guys? Is that an easy thing or a hard thing? To overcome it in a manner that the client doesn't think that they're wrong. Is that an easy thing or a hard thing? It's a hard thing, and it takes a lot of time. So we found that it's a lot faster, even though it seems like we're going on and on and on, it's a lot faster to do it that way than to even let the objection come up. Does that make sense? And they can't have the objection because when they're talking to us, answering our questions, they're actually thinking out loud. So if they're thinking out loud, guess what? No objections. That makes sense? Now, let's say that we all make mistakes. We all try to take shortcuts. We all or maybe have a lot of appointments and we rush through the process. So instead of or maybe we're newer with the system and we're still learning the scripts. So if the scripts are designed so that the objections don't come up. But you know what? Sometimes they do because we've taken shortcuts or don't know the scripts as well as we should. So what do we do when we have objections? When we actually do get objections because we took a shortcut somewhere, didn't know the script? Well, first of all, are any objections new? Or have we heard them all before? Yeah, we've heard them all before. And that's again, what we just talked about here is I know the 4 or 5 objections are going to come up with the titling, power of attorney, and beneficiary, so we just overcome them before they come up. Because the objections are not new. Are they unexpected? So you need to expect objections. Again, if you're doing everything right, you won't get them, but you need to expect them. And how many objections are not valid? How many objections are not valid? 0. They're all valid, right, Bert? They're all 100% valid. Because from there, if we climbed into their heads, I mean, not even most, Jim, all objections are valid. All objections are valid. And why do I want you to understand that all objections are valid? If we think that only most objections are valid, what could we do? Yeah, if we know all are valid, it's much easier to get on their side. So there's 4 basic types of objections. Are some objections knee-jerk or real objections? They're all real objections. They're all real objections. If somebody says they don't have enough money, even if they have enough money, but they say they don't have enough money, is that a real objection, guys? Tony says yes, and I agree with Tony. Because even if they have money, but they say they don't have money, what they're saying is they don't have money to what? For that purpose, right, Bert? Or they don't feel they have enough, Gary, exactly. So when every objection is valid. Here's why you need to understand that, because the old school, which is completely horse hockey, of dealing with objections is what? When they give you objections, you're supposed to what? The old school sales training, when they give you an objection, you're supposed to what? What's the old school training? You're supposed to what? Ask them questions. Oh, so why do you feel that way? Why do they want you to ask questions? Why do you feel that way? I hated news. Oh, I certainly understand how you would feel that way. I mean, what has happened in the past that caused you to feel that? Why do you feel that? When you do that, does that actually lower their resistance level or go up when you start questioning them like that? It goes up, exactly, Gary. It goes up. But we've been taught, well, you know what? That first objection is not the true objection, so you need to ask them questions to find out why they feel that way or get down to the true objection. Guys, that's crap. Treat every objection out of their mouth as a true objection. Yeah, that's right, Jim. The old school is first objection is not the true objection, but it's only offense to climb, which is, guys, if you start questioning them, if you're at the car dealership and you say, does that, or you say, it doesn't have good enough gas mileage, and they say, no, hey, you know what, I get it, gas mileage is important. So what kind of gas mileage are you looking for? Does that make you feel more comfortable or less comfortable when they say that? Why? Tony and Rick, less, I agree. Why does it make you less comfortable when they say, well, hey, they're just trying to be helpful, Tony and Rick. They're just trying to find out what kind of gas mileage you're looking for. That's right, because you feel that you're being challenged, and you feel like that if you mention a number, he's going to say, aha, gotcha. I got a car right here that gives you that. So do we ask questions when somebody gives us an objection? No. We actually get on their side. We tell them their objection is absolutely valid. Does that make sense why when people were saying that maybe most objections are valid or it's a knee-jerk reaction, do you get why that's bothersome for me to hear that? I don't want you to think that way. I want you to think that if it comes out of their mouth, it's absolutely valid. Because if you treat it that way, you're going to have a much better success rate than if you doubt or you think that it's just something they're trying to hide. Because if there's something trying to hide, you're going to go out looking for something. And if you go out looking for something, it's going to put them on the defensive. Make sense, everybody? If I get a few yeses, hallelujahs. Well, I get, Kevin, that it's difficult after years of traditional sales training, but guess what? What's the best way to learn to ask questions? What's the best way to learn to get on their side? What's the best way to learn to overcome objection, guys? And only a few of you do it. Tony, you do it. You do the thing I'm looking for. Thank you, Gary. Gary got it. Record your meetings. There's nothing that will get you better more quickly than to record your meetings and review it with Jeff or myself or even your own self, because you'll quit doing those things. You become hypersensitive to those things that you shouldn't be doing when you hear yourself doing it. Guys, why don't we like to listen to our own recordings? Everybody tells me, hey, I hate to listen to my recordings. Why do we hate to listen to our recordings? Yeah, you see your own flaws. It's painful. But guys, Tony and Rick, why? It's painful. I get why. Yeah, Roy, you hear your mistakes, and you can't deny them. You hear your mistakes, and you can't. The truth hurts, right, Casey? So, but you know what? Let the truth set you what? Free, exactly. And you know what? When you listen to your tapes, you will be set free, because all those nasty things you've been doing for decades will instantly start falling away, okay? So let's talk about the 4 types of objections. Lack of trust to you, lack of trust to your solution, lack of trust to your company. That's one. So lack of trust is one type of objection. Number 2, there's no perceived value, no perceived need. They don't need it. So lack of value. No urgency. Hey, I can do this anytime. Now that's one. So Jeff Freeberg, can you get on here?
Yep, I'm here.
Would you agree that no urgency is probably the biggest thing that our guys come across?
Oh, yeah.
Because the lack of trust, we deal with that with the 21-point checklist, right? No perceived value. They see value. They love all the stuff we have. But why is the no urgency? Why is that the biggest thing we deal with?
Usually because when I hear it, it's because guys are making a big deal out of the problem. And when you're meeting with people who are successful, financially set, so they have $500,000 in a pension, they're thinking the pension covers my bills, the $500,000 is for rainy days. I get what you're saying, I may have a problem with my homeowners. I get what you're saying, that I may have a problem with my power of attorney. I get that I may have a problem with my titling. All those things I see now with my own eyes that it's true, I have those problems. But those things didn't keep me. I've had them for a while. Those things didn't keep me from getting the $500,000 in the pension. Those things aren't going to keep me from going to the steakhouse tonight with my family, and those things aren't going to keep me from taking the grandkids to Disney World this summer. So they're not that big a deal. They hadn't been a big deal in the past. They're not that big a deal today, and they're not going to be a big deal for the next few months. I should take care of them, absolutely. But when? Whenever, maybe when we get back from Disneyland at the end of the summer. I don't know. Just no sense of urgency. They just don't. If the problem is the things on the list, they'll just think, well, I can take care of those whenever.
Yep, that's perfectly put, Jeff. So guys, no urgency. They understand that they can trust you. They understand that you have value. But if you don't create motive to the guy, guess what? There's no urgency. And the last one is no money. No money. That's another objection. So let's talk about, can we overcome these objections before then bring them up? Let's talk about the lack of trust. That's the first type of objection. How do we overcome the lack of trust before they bring that up? GOTS, exactly, Kevin. How else do we bring it up? How else do we overcome it? In the first 40 seconds with them, we actually show 6 acts of courtesy. Not even in the first 10 minutes. In the first 40 seconds, we show 6 acts of courtesy. What am I talking about? When I say, hey, would it be okay if I share with you what happens in the next hour or so as they're sitting down? Why does that shows that's just 2 or 3 layers of courtesy right there in that little tiny sentence as they are sitting down. Yeah, we're asking permission for one thing, Jim. We're also saying, hey, nothing will happen without your permission. We're also saying, I know that you don't know what's going on. Let me show you what's going to go. So it's all sorts of little acts of courtesy that shows that they can trust us. Don't sell, tell, preach, or teach. They don't trust people who tell, sell, preach, and teach. Why? Why wouldn't they trust us if we tell, sell, preach, and teach? Which is what most salespeople do. Why don't they trust us when we're tell, sell, preach, and teaching? Well, Paul, what do you mean by motive? So Paul said motive. What? That's right. We have an agenda. The only reason we would say anything, the only reason we would do anything is to get them to buy from us. Do they really think, we've just met these folks, do they really think we care about them? And I just laugh my behind off at advisors who think that clients come in and believe that they care about them. Now, I know why guys get twisted around with that, because some guys really do care about their clients. But you shouldn't expect the client to believe that. Yeah, Kevin, they just think we're trying to get their money. So one of the ways that we overcome it is what? If there's any point worth making, it should be made by who? Them, not us. Because if they say it, it's true. If we say it, it's just a ploy for us to get their money. We make them invite us in. We never say, hey, do you want me to fix this for you? Hey, what do you want? Do you want me? I can do all these things for you. Do we ever brag about how good we are? Is the 21-point checklist meeting designed for us to say, well, you know what? I take care of my clients' power of attorney. That's why I'm a good That's why I'm a good advisor. You know, I give out these quality life directions. I can't believe advisors will give those out because I'm such a good advisor because I give those out. Is the 21-point checklist about us at all? No, right. It's about their guy and what he's not doing and why he's not doing, the motive for him not doing those things. So by the time we get to the end, we're not saying, hey, you know, you should work with me because I'm great. We just say, what do you want me to do? And they ask us in. And then we're the ones that show them what's behind the curtain. Those 21 things, you know, at the end, when they don't like their guy and they understand the motive that guy had to withhold all that information? Have we at once told them that we're wonderful advisors? Have we told them that once? No. But we're like the wizard, you know, the wizard or the little Toto the dog who pulled the curtain behind the wizard and showed Dorothy all the things that wizard was doing. So if we're the ones that showed them what's behind the curtain, what will they naturally believe? I mean, if I've showed them the tricks that advisors, 21 tricks that advisors play on their clients, what do they think about me? It builds trust. I agree, Kevin. Why? Friend, I agree with that too. If I show them the tricks that all the other advisors use on their clients, can I use those same tricks? Maybe I've got other tricks, but can I use those 21 on them? Well, not even can I do it if I'm a hypocrite. If I've shown them how it works, if I'm the magician that shows how the lady is cut in half, can I trick you with that anymore? Do you get that? So they naturally will begin to trust us because we showed them how to cut the lady in half, so they know we're not going to try to do that to them. We're not going to make them look like buffoons. Does that make sense? So our system is designed right up front in many different levels, if you're doing it right, to overcome that lack of trust. Also, you know, the 21 things that we're doing, the non-financial for the first 45 minutes, do we get paid to do any of those things? No. So if we don't get paid, Victoria, to do those things, that obviously makes us more trustworthy, right? At least shows that we're in it for more than the money. And are we patient or we push? At the end, the end of the 21-point checklist, do we, even though they want to give us all their money right then and, you know, chop, 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 they want to give us that money, do we take it? Or do we say, yeah, well, let's do this. Let's go to the front desk. We'll give some time for the, you know, we covered a lot of information here today. Let's make an appointment for about a week out, give time for the dust to settle, give time for you to come up with some good questions, then we'll just get together and we'll move forward at your pace. How does that sound? Boy, that's a hard close, isn't it? So why, when you're being patient, does that get rid of the lack of trust? Because what's a salesman going to do? Close, close, close. Always be closing, right? A, B, C. We don't do that. Especially the more money they have, the more you better not be ABCing, because they will run away. Okay, so what's the other kind of? No perceived need or value. How do the 5Q system overcome no perceived need or value? Because when they first come to see us, they may think, as Jeff pointed out here a little bit ago, they may see that we have some good ideas. Some good ideas, but will people move for good ideas? No, they're not going to move for good ideas. Does anybody, do they have any clue the things that they have wrong prior to the disclosure meeting? Do they have any clue whatsoever? They have no clue, right, Kevin? They have no clue whatsoever the things that they have wrong. So the disclosure meeting actually is our, you know, that's the advisorectomy where they finally see, wow, there is tons of perceived value here. I want that stuff, and I want this guy, and I don't want my current guy. See, they don't want to leave their advisor. They need to leave their advisor. So what kind of perceived need or value is that? Huge. See, here's the thing. It's hilarious. Every other advisor is out there striving to find a hot button. Do we look for a hot button, guys? Do we ask questions trying to find out what's their hot button? Is the win-win-win their hot button? Is taxes the hot button? That's crap. Now, everybody else in the industry has to do that. Why do they have to do it? Why does every other advisor in the industry have to go looking for the hot button? To make the sale. Why? Pitch and close, pitch and close. That's right. It's sales, Victor. Exactly. So here's the thing. Why don't we need to look for the hot button? Because we create a white hot, that's right, Tony. We create our own. We create a white hot button. What is our hot button, guys? What is our hot button? Not the 21, not trust. Ah, Jerry. Ah, Tony, right. Their other advisor is screwing them. Their other advisor is bad. Their other advisor cannot be trusted. Their other advisor has a character flaws. And if I cannot trust the guy, I'm working with a bad guy. The guy I'm working with has character flaws. He lies, cheats, and steals. Guys, would you want your money, if I'm describing an advisor, is that the guy you'd want your money with? Is that the guy you want your money with? No, and that brings up the next objection, no urgency. When they believe that disclosure meeting, they don't want to leave the advisor, they need to leave the advisor right now. The whole thing about, hey, this is a good idea. Hey, I should get my power of attorney fixed. Hey, I should get that quality of life directive. Hey, I should talk to my guy about umbrella liability insurance. Hey, I should get my guys. If that's what they're worried about, as Jeff pointed out a few minutes ago, guess what? Is there any urgency with people with money to get those things fixed? Even if hey, that's a good idea. No, I can see I have a problem here. No, Jim, there is no urgency. There is zero urgency. That's what you need to understand. There is no urgency. If there is no urgency to get their power of attorney fixed, there is no urgency to get their quality of life directive, there is no urgency to do anything. Why is there no urgency? And Jeff just covered this. Why is there no urgency for them to get anything that we show them in the 21 fixed? The people we want. Yeah, it's been all okay so far, Victoria. Life is good, Tony. Yeah, I mean, they're doing fine. They're saying, yeah, those are good ideas. I guess when I get around to it, when I have some time, when I got some downtime, when I got some extra time, I'll go ahead and get those things fixed. But you know how I know that they're not a problem right now, as Jeff said? Because I'm living the life right now. I'm going on vacation here in 2 days. I don't need to get this fixed. I'll get it fixed when I get home because, hey, I'm the one going to the Bahamas, not you. So obviously it's not that big a deal. It's not preventing me to live the lifestyle I want. But if they feel they're screwed, right, Jim? If they feel that they're screwed, if they're being screwed by their advisor, not that they're screwed, but they're getting screwed by their advisor, that becomes a white hot button. And what happened? Would you go on vacation? Would you go on vacation if you thought the guy handling your money was screwing you? Let's say you're going on vacation in 2 days. If you thought the guy was handling your money was screwing you, would you say, I'll take care of that when I get back? What would you do the whole time you're on vacation? So that's why, guys, if somebody says, I'll take care of this when I get back from vacation, what's that tell you about the success of your 21-point checklist? And that's where you guys get kind of you scratch your head and say, geez, they were upset about these things. They wanted to get these things fixed. So I don't understand why they say they're going to get them fixed 3 months from now. So what's the problem? If they're saying I want to get these things fixed months, I'm upset. These things should have been done. I'm mad because these things should have been done. I'm going to get these things fixed. When I get back from my vacation, I'm going to get these things fixed. What's that tell you about the advisor, what the advisor did? What did the advisor do wrong? If the people are saying, I'm mad. These things need to be fixed. I'm mad. That my guy should have been doing these things. I'm going to get these things as soon as I get back from vacation. What does that tell you about the guy? I'm looking for something more specific than he didn't do a good job. Ah, thank you, Jim. There was no motive. Yeah, it was about their problems, not about the motive of the guy, right, Tony? Because if you do the motive right, there ain't nobody's going to say, I'll take care. They're the ones when you say, we'll go to the front desk, we'll make an appointment for a week out, and they say, a week out? What the heck are you talking about? Why a week out? Why can't we get this fixed now? Then you know you did the meeting right, okay? Because we create that hot button. Now, that's how we try to overcome the objections before they come up, because we're going to have them thinking out loud about why there are no objections. We need to move now. My guy had a motive to not tell me all these things. So what's the lesson there? Is all objections can be overcome, but it's a lot easier to never have them come up in the first place. But let's say we make a mistake. We take a shortcut. We don't know the scripts as well as we should. We do more telling, selling, preaching, and teaching than we do asking questions. Whatever it may be, we make a mistake. How do we actually handle the objections when they come up then? Well, let's talk about the no money. How do we handle that? Well, at the agreement, let's talk about when they have no money at the agreement meeting. What do? We find out they really don't have any money at the agreement meeting. What do? We make it a win-win. we help them the best we can with a 21 light. And what I mean by that is you take out your yellow pad and you say, well, here's the thing, because if they don't have enough money, who's rejecting who? Are they rejecting you or are you rejecting them if they don't have enough money? Who's rejecting who? Yeah, you are right, Roy. You're rejecting them. So we want karma to be in our favor. We want to do the right thing. So we'll sit down, we'll pull out a yellow pad, and we'll just write down all the things that should be doing. Update your power of attorney. Here's a website that you can do that. Or here's my attorney's name. You can do it. Here's a quality of life directive. Here's a survivor's guide. You hand them those things for free. And then they feel wonderful about you. So then you say, hey, if I sent you home with a self-addressed stamped envelope, would you be willing to say that was this a good meeting for you? Did I try to twist your arm? Did I try to sell you something? Did I beat you about the head and shoulders? Are you going home with valuable things, valuable information? Was it an okay guy? And they say, would you be willing to say I was an okay guy on a letter? And they say, yeah, they would. So they send you home with a self-addressed if you send them home with a self-addressed envelope, those will come back. Now, if you're a registered rep, can you use those as endorsements? Can you use those as endorsement letters if you're a registered rep? Yes, you can, Victoria. Yes, you can, Jim. Guys. Oh, I just broke something. I'm banging my table so hard. So you can use those if you're a registered rep. Go look at the rules. No, not even in office. You can use them. You can send them out. Read the rules for a registered rep. What kind of endorsement can somebody not give you as a registered rep? They cannot say you're an awesome investment advisor, that you made them a ton of money, that you gave them a great rate of return. They cannot endorse you as a registered rep for your investment acumen, how much money you made them, blah, blah, blah. But they can absolutely endorse you that you are a good, trustworthy advisor. Registered reps can. RIAs cannot. RIAs cannot use any type. RIAs cannot use any type of endorsement letter. But how do we get the endorsement if you're an RIA? What's the best endorsement we get? And everybody can do this, including RIAs. What's the best endorsement we can get? Even if you're an RIA. No, nobody got it yet. Somebody got it. Tony got it. Good job, Tony. You have client appreciation events. And then you take hundreds of pictures at your client appreciation event of happy, smiling people. And then you put those, the only art I had on my wall were big murals, about 7 of them, of hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of pictures of smiling clients. That's the only art I had on my wall. And then when people would come in, I was an RIA, I could do that. People came in, what'd they do? When people came into my office, what'd they do? They looked at the pictures, and inevitably, what'd they find? They found people that they knew. And even if they didn't find people they knew, what were they assured of? They see hundreds, if not thousands, of smiling clients. What are they assured of? Not having a good time. They're happy clients, right, Kevin? Clients are happy with me, Tony, yes. But if you're a registered rep or a insurance professional, you can use those testimonials for people with no money. And even if you can't, just give them, they're in the office, give them do a 21 light with them right on a yellow pad and send them on their way. So now at the agreement meeting, what should you do if someone is giving you an objection at the agreement meeting? What if somebody's giving you an objection at the agreement meeting? What should you do? First time they give you an objection, you just dismiss it and move on. I say, oh no, that makes total sense, and just move on. Because is the agreement meeting about changing their opinion on anything? What's the agreement meeting about? Simply what? What is the agreement meeting about? Gather the data, right? Just gather the data and get them to the next meeting. That's it. So the first time, just hey, that makes total sense, and move on. Second time, you have to decide, are they reasonable? Because if they're giving you a bunch of objections at the first meeting, guys, if we're not trying to get anything done except collect the data at the first meeting, and they're sending up objection after objection after objection, you have to decide, do I want this person at all? And you're right, Victoria, we want to get on their side, get on their side, get on their side. But if they require you to get on their side continually, when we're just trying to, they came in to get for us to do an easy check or an extensive check. If they're arguing with us, then we need to just say, enough, goodbye. Okay. So if you don't want them, get them out fast. If you do want them, check yourself before you wreck yourself, which means why are these objections coming up? Why are they coming up? You got to figure out, why is this happening? And generally it's because you're what? You're trying to make a point. You're trying to sell something at the first meeting. Don't do that. So if all else fails, though, we have an objection folder. So if everything we do trying to prevent these objections from coming up, they actually do end up coming up. Here's the formula. First thing we're going to do is acknowledge the objection. So I use the word absolutely. So if they say something I don't like, they say I hate annuities, just say absolutely. So I acknowledge their objection. It could be absolutely, you're right, or you're spot on. That's exactly right. Whatever you want to do, acknowledge their objection. Give them a positive acknowledgement. And then I'll parrot it back in the form of a question. So how do you parrot it back in the form of a question? So if they say they hate annuities, say, absolutely right, I hate annuities. I mean, annuities are awful, aren't they? Now, when they give us an objection and we do that, and we say, absolutely, I mean, annuities are awful, aren't they? What happens to their fight, flight, their pulse rate, their blood pressure? Yeah, it drops. They calm down. Also, what happens to their mindset? What did they think I was going to do when they say I hate annuities? What did they think I was going to do? Argue, right, Kevin? They thought I was going to argue. So when instead I say absolutely, I mean, annuities are awful, aren't they? What does that do to the whole conversation? You don't do feel felt found. Feel felt found is the stupidest thing to do. It is absolutely, guys, if you're at a car dealership and you say, I don't like this car because it doesn't have enough high enough gas mileage, say, oh, I understand how you feel. And I've had a lot of clients that felt that way. But what we found, what do you do if you hear that crap? Oh, I'm sorry, Gary, sorry. So Gary's saying, oh, they expected the feel felt found. Well, if they're a seasoned salesperson who's in the buying seat, they may, but most people recognize feel felt found, but they don't expect it. What they do expect us to do, though, is argue. Sorry about that, Gary. So when we do acknowledge and we pair it back in the form of a question, it changes the whole paradigm of the conversation. It like rattles their brain. Like, what? What did he just say? Because if they thought I was going to argue with them, but instead I'm agreeing with them, and listen to this. You're absolutely right. Annuities are terrible, aren't they? What did I get them to say in the first 5 seconds? What did I get them to say in the first 5 seconds? If I say, absolutely, annuities are horrible, aren't they? What are they going to say back to that? What word? Yes. So, Tony, is it great if I turn an objection into them saying yes within the first 5 seconds? We've turned this whole conversation from them thinking I'm going to argue with them to them agreeing with me. And then I'm going to get on their side. And how long am I shooting for to get on their side when they give me an objection? How long am I shooting for? 5 minutes, right, 5 minutes. Why am I shooting for 5 minutes? Because here's the thing, I have to get to them to admit that they're wrong. And does anybody like to admit that they're wrong? No, nobody likes to admit that they're wrong. So I need to put some real estate between when they've said an objection and when we overcome the objection. And the way we do that is we get on their side. We acknowledge, pair it back and forth a question, get on their side, and then we put time between when we do that and when we overcome the objection. Now, here's the great thing. We'll get to that here in a second. I'm going to go through the whole objection form first. Then we're going to determine a bottom line, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Then I'm going to tell them a story, and then I'm going to have them reverse tell me the story. It's like I'm going to tell them the Three Little Pig story, and then I'm going to have them tell me the Three Little Pig story back. That's if you are a master at this, you can overcome any objection in the world if you know how to utilize this. But that takes some time and effort. So, and then you go some outs and ins, and we'll talk about that here a little bit later. But here's the thing. Instead of learning all of these things, what we found is that if you use the Pareto principle, which is that you're going to get 80% of the benefit from using 20% of this, all I want you to do is acknowledge, pair it back in the form of the question, and, well, we'll talk about that here in a second, and get on their side. If you do just those 3 things, you don't have to do all 6 of these things. That's what a master would do. But if you're going to get 80% of the benefit by just doing these 3 things, acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, and get on the client side. What I mean by don't forget these 2 words, remember when they said they hate annuities, I say, absolutely. Annuities are horrible, aren't they? That's the 2 words, aren't they? Doesn't it? Wouldn't it? You just state whatever they said, and then you tack those 2 words onto it to get them agreeing with you immediately. And then I just get on the client side. So let's say that I have an ABC, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say ABC, let's say XYZ. I have a particular way to overcome the objection where they say annuities are terrible. And the way I do it is XYZ. So I'm just using that as a standard. That's my standard methodology to overcome that particular objection. If they give me that objection and then I just hop into XYZ, what's going to happen? So they give me an objection and I go XYZ to prove to them they're wrong, what's going to happen? Yeah, they're going to get defensive, Tony. But here's the thing. If I acknowledge it and then I say annuities are horrible, aren't they? And then I get on the side, and you know, because they're with insurance companies, and insurance companies are only after one thing, the almighty dollar. They're not here to help us. They're here to help themselves, to help their and I start to tell them why annuities are bad. And then after, again, we're shooting for 5 minutes. I'll be happy with 2 or 3 minutes. Because at the end of 2 or 3 minutes, guess what they've forgotten? After you explain to them why they've been right for 2 or 3 minutes, guess what they've forgotten? Guess what they've forgotten? Their objection. They've forgotten, how did we even get into this conversation? So if they've forgotten their objection, they've forgotten how we've even gotten this conversation, they don't have to admit they're wrong. So I'm going to acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side, and then I'm going to XYZ. And it will work fabulously well. Why will it work if I do these first 3 things first and then do the XYZ, which is the identical thing that I would have done if they gave me an objection and I just jumped in there with the XYZ? Why would the same exact verbiage work after these 3 things where it wouldn't work if you didn't do these 3 things first? Trust, yes, they know you're on their side. They know they think like you. The wall has been broken down. They forget why the conversation even came up. They don't have to admit that there's all sorts of reasons. But you get that you don't even have to be a genius at overcoming objections. Just use the same thing you've been using for years, but put these 3 things in front of it. If you put these 3 things in front of it, whatever the way you've been overcoming objection for years will work fabulously well. Do you get that? Can I get some yeses? Super. And then get on the client side until you beat the horse dead, and then beat it some more. Because when you think you've gone 3 minutes, how many minutes have you actually gone? Hallelujah, Greg. Yeah, you think you've gone 1 or 30 seconds when you think you've gone 3 minutes. So beat the horse dead, beat it again, and then get another club and beat it some more, because the more real estate you can put between their objection and when you overcome it, the better this is going to work. Make sense? So you don't have to see the whole staircase to take just take that first step. You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take that first step. Just do those first 3 things. If you do those first 3 things, here's what you're doing. You're taking their objection from the myopic to the big picture, and here's what I mean by that. They are looking, when they give you an objection, they are looking through the world through a microscope. And if you try to say, quit looking through the microscope, look it over here. You know, if they're looking through the microscope and they say, oh my gosh, the world's made of bacteria. It's made of bacteria. And you're saying, no, it's not. I mean, the world's made of bacteria and all this other stuff. Look over here. That's an argument. Instead, when they say the world's made of bacteria, you need to say, whoa, you're right. It is made of. Look, I see that. Look at that green one over there. Oh, look at that brown. The brown one's eating the purple one. Oh, that ugly. Look at that ugly orange one. Man, the world, look at this bacteria all over the place. I can't believe. And you get on their side about bacteria, and they say, oh, and look over there. Look at that tree. Geez, I wonder what that tree's made of. And they say, well, I don't think that's made of bacteria. See, once you've gotten on their side, then about looking through that microscope, it allows you, after you've got on their side for 3, 4, 5 minutes, to take a step back and have them look at the big picture, and then will they argue with you? No, it's just like a continuation of the conversation. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, good. So now what a lot of guys do, they're worried though, but if I get on their side for 5 minutes, if I tell them how their objection is right, if I agree with them that, for example, if the nudity's bad, if I agree with that, how am I ever going to overcome that objection? Guys, don't worry about that, because if you just worry about getting on their side about that thing, then we can have, there's what we have bottom lines. We have bottom lines basically for all sorts of things to help you out if you want. But really, can we agree that every investment is bad? I mean, can we agree that the same reasons I hate annuities, I would hate mutual funds, and I would hate money managers? Why? Because they're all about what? Us or themselves. They're all about themselves. I mean, so all we're going to do after we get on their side about annuities, we're just going to drift into, yeah, I mean, all these guys. Heck, oil companies, what are they about? What are oil companies about, guys? They're not about oil. What are they about? Yeah, dollars. Dollars about who? Profits, making money off of who? Yeah, so you know how I dealt with the fact that I don't like oil companies and the fact that they're big and they're only out for themselves and they're just out to make money off of me? Guess how I do? I sold my car and I walk everywhere. Is that what I did? No, what do? I deal with it. Because we could go through, geez, do we trust any retailer? Do we trust, I mean, everybody, we know that everybody's trying to make money off us. We just need to go in there with eyes wide open. But we can't have that conversation with them until they know that we've looked through the world through their eyes. So I'm going to go through some of the bottom lines. So after you've acknowledged, paired it back in the form of a question, and got on their side, I'll just go through some of the bottom lines you can use with some of the objections out there. So if they say, does it have high fees? First of all, I don't like paying high fees. We're going to acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side, and then we'll start to go through that. No, it doesn't have high fees. It has fees that are fair. Are they more or less fair than what you're currently paying? You don't have, you don't mind paying fees as long as you get something for them. So guys, do you see in the presentation for the win-win-win, in the presentation, I'm sorry, not for the win-win, the presentation for the yellow pad and the presentation for the FIA, do you see how this is actually built in to the presentation? So we're actually, again, overcoming the objections before they've come up. Both of these things are actually built in to the presentation, so you overcome those objections before they even come up. Do you see that? Even in the solutions meetings, we know what the objections generally are, so we're putting them in there before they come up. But if you're presenting something else, all you do is acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side, and then these are the bottom lines that you can use. Do you guys get what I mean by bottom lines? Do you get what I mean by bottom lines? Can I get some yeses or nos? Or okay, I got some yeses and some nos. Okay. So the bottom line is this: is that once I've acknowledged, then I've paired it back in the form of a question, then I've gotten on their side. The bottom line is the conversation I'm going to have with them to overcome the objection. So the bottom line of the conversation would be, yeah, I mean, the fees are high. Let's compare them to what you're currently paying, and then you tell me which ones are higher, which ones are more fair, which ones. Or I could approach it with this bottom line. You know what? The fees are there. Yeah, there's no free lunch. So we have to decide is, are the fees that you're paying, are they giving you what you want? Are you willing to pay these fees to get what their fees are giving you? So that's it's our, after we've acknowledged, paired back in the form of the question, got on their side, this is the theme of the conversation we're going to have them overcome their own objection. Does that help you out better? The ones that said no? Could I get it? Those of you who said no, could I get a few yeses? Okay, good. Thanks. I don't want something to be risky. I don't want to mean something risky. Well, first of all, we don't do that. But if let's say that you could use this for money management, you could say, well, you want to be prepared for everything, the good and the bad. So that would be the objection. You acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side, and then you let them know that they want to be prepared for both good and bad, not just prepared for the bad. I want to see everything in writing. So again, acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on the side. So I want to see everything in writing. Absolutely. I mean, doing something without looking at it in writing would be foolish, wouldn't it? There's the two words, wouldn't it? And then get on the side and go through a personal story where I didn't look at something in writing and it burned me. So then they know, oh, Mike gets what I'm talking about when it comes to this, and then they forget how they even said it, and then I'm able to overcome it with these bottom lines. So are they going to be able to read or understand what they're reading? So the best thing to do is have an expert walk through it with them and understand every single word, phrase, paragraph, and have them ask questions and get quizzed so that they know exactly what's going on. And can they do that? Can I do that with medicine? Can I do that with engineering? Can I do that with anything? No, because we need experts to help us do that. Can I sleep on it? And you say, absolutely. I mean, it'd be crazy to move forward without sleeping on it, wouldn't it? There's the little two questions, wouldn't it? Get on their side about, yeah, I mean, I'd never make a decision without sleeping on blah, blah, blah. I'd get on their side about how great that is, and then the bottom line I'm going to use is, we do this a little bit because can I sleep on it is a kind of I need to think about it, isn't it? So those of you that know how we overcome I need to think about it, what we do is what? After we get on their side about I need to think about it or sleeping on it, then I say, after I do that for 3, 4, 5 minutes, then I say, I mean, and what is it the kind of things that people want to think about when they're sleeping on it? And then they'll pop out with a real objection, and then I get on their side about that. It's a two-step. So can I sleep on it? And I need to think about it. Is the only time we have a two-level get on their side. We're going to get on their side about thinking about it, sleeping on it, and then what we're going to do is find out what the true objection is by saying, yeah, and what is it that people need to think about when they sleep on it? And then the true objection will pop out, and then we just simply do it all over again. Acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side about that real reason, because the real reason that they have for not wanting to move forward. Does that make sense? We've actually worked on some Friday calls, the I need to think about it presentation. And then one of the bottom lines we could use is, well, this investment is mistake-proof. If the investment is mistake-proof, what would there be to think about? Because there's only two things going to happen, and and it's impossible. The market's going to go up, market's going to go down. And you can't make a mistake with this. That would be the bottom line, or nothing to be gained by waiting. That's another bottom line. I'll think about it. So again, that's the same thing where you're going to have the two-step method where you're going to acknowledge, get on their side, and then I say, so what is it people would want to think about? They'll tell you the real objection, and then you simply, again, acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, and get on their side all over again. So do you get it when I'm saying we're doing it two levels? With I need to think about it or I need to sleep on it, we're going to get on their side about I need to think about it or they want to sleep on it. Acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, get on their side, and then we're going to say, and what is it people need to think about? And then the real objection will pop out, and they'll say, well, you know, this seems a little risky, or I don't know if now is the right time. The real objection will pop out, and then we simply get on their side about the real objection all over again. Acknowledge, pair it back in the form of a question, and get on their side and then overcome that particular real objection. What if the market goes up? Acknowledge, get on their side. I mean, absolutely. I mean, we wouldn't want to be in this if the market went up, would we? And then you get on their side, and then you have the bottom line you use is, we want to be prepared just if the market goes up, or we want to be prepared for what? Both. Or you could use, what would you gain by that if the market went up versus what if you could lose if the market didn't? Okay. What if something happens to you? Meaning me, because they think I'm a sole person office. If they start working with me and I die, they're out, right? They're out they'd have to go find somebody new. They'd be floating in the hinterland without me. So that sometimes comes up if you run a sole person office. I mean, again, acknowledge, absolutely. I mean, if something happened to me, that could be a problem, couldn't it? There's the two words, couldn't it? So then I get on their side, and then I'll simply say, we set up everything up front so that you could run on autopilot for years. We spent all the time and effort putting this together up front so you could run on autopilot for years. So you'd have time to find that right person. Or you could say, I work in an organization with 150 professionals that work just like me, and they would be more than happy to step in and help you out. I'm going to review this with my accountant. Again, acknowledge, say absolutely. I mean, we always want to review these types of things with our accountants, don't we? Again, change it to a yes, and then I'm going to get on their side, and then I'm going to say there are many experts work. The bottom line then, after to overcome the objection, I'm going to say there are many experts work with one that's an expert on the topic you're concerned about. Again, I don't say these things, but I have them say this to me. Or I could have them say, what would you say if you were in his shoes about so there's different ways you can go about it, but the real thing I want you to understand is you can overcome these objections the very way you're currently overcoming them, and it will work fantastically as long as you do those 3 things first. So I'm just giving you some ideas for bottom lines. I'm going to review this with my son. Bottom line is it's too hard for loved ones to be objective. Love gets in the way of objectivity. I'm going to go, I see we're running late, so I'm just going to go through the rest here very quickly. Or you can say, super, let's bring them in and explain things so that you have these in the to go back and look at. My neighbor says it isn't any good. Friendship is great, experience is better. Can you hold a friend accountable? I want to shop around. You're not going to find a better deal and waiting can hurt you, or how am I going to feel when you come back? If you wanted to continue to shop after meeting my wife, would that have affected our relationship? If I told my wife, you know what, I'm going to come back, I'm going to shop around, find out, see if there's any better women than you, and I'm going to come back and see if there's nothing better, I'll come back and marry you. Would that affect my relationship with her? I'm going to wait until everything settles down. You have to be prepared always. You never know when or what's going to happen. My broker says everything is going to go back up. Don't know what's going to happen. Be prepared for everything. My favorite line is super. Super or absolutely. Actually, my favorite line is absolutely. He sounds, for if advisor says that the market's going to go back up, I say super. He sounds so certain. Let me get him on the line because I want to move all my money to him as well. And all I'm going to ask is that if he's wrong, he gives me his home. I've used that before, and boy, that squashes that particular objection. Chop. I don't want to lose the death benefit. The money is for you, not your kids, and it takes less money to take care of one person than 2. You pay the most when you need it the least. If I pull out, this is going to cost me a huge tax bill, surrender penalty. It's going to cost you more to stay or leave. Have them tell me. My children say I should just leave everything as it is. Your kids are in a different situation than you, or love can get in the way of making good decisions. The doctor analogy, and we can talk about that later. I'm going to wait until I get in front of my next statement, get my next statement. How is that going to change things? Can I just try this with $10,000 and see how it goes? If it's not right for all of it, it's not right for any of it. So those are the bottom lines, and I kind of went through this quickly just so you would have those to go back to and reference to in the future. So sorry I went a little bit late. Hopefully you found this helpful, and we'll be posting this here later in the afternoon. And then Missy?
Yep, just a reminder that there is no call this Friday for the 4th of July. Our office will be closed on the 3rd, but we will be back to our normal schedule on Monday the 6th.
Super. Thanks, everybody. Have a great, if I don't talk to you, have a great 4th of July, and be safe, and we'll talk to you all on Monday. Thanks, everybody.